And I thought we should do two things today. One, have a general discussion of the political purposes and direction for the event. And then secondly, the run of show so that everyone has a good sense of what's going to happen. And then any kind of questions or last minute technical things that we need to come up with. But here I want to say we would like people to come on about at least 45 minutes early so that we can be sure we've got technical things running because we know folks are in different places. You don't might have to sit there in front of the thing, but also it would be a chance for you to meet Rabbi Alana and for her to meet all of you. So
That would be 6:15, just to clarify. That'd be 6:15 Eastern time on Thursday.
I'm sorry, are we starting at 7?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Let's check.
Is that right, everybody? I think we're doing,
Yeah, that's what we announced. I think we should stick to it.
Okay, if that's what we put out, let's stick to it.
Yes.
What I have tonight is at 6.
Okay, there you go.
All right. So I'll just give a little background of how we got to this, both based on our own reaction to what's been going on in the country and what I think we all agree is emerging fascism. We understood that fear is the primary emotion that the administration and the forces around him are trying to generate. And I think we've most recently just seen it with what's been happening with the citizens, the students who have been yanked away and the professors. But while we were looking at this fear, what resonated with all of us was many people in the council who have talked about how people were afraid, but they acted anyway. And that particularly the phrase that captured it was, I think it was Vincent who said, "We sang so much so that we wouldn't hear our knees knocking." And so both the power of the ability to act in the face of fear and the power of culture and collective singing or collective strength to enable us to do things we could not do on our own are the real issues that we want to address today. And or in our webinar, we want to really be able to give people a sense that they're right to be afraid. I mean, that's natural. It's normal and it's being created. But that does not need to rule us, that we can act in other ways. And people have historically done that. So that's kind of the basic political overview. And we have a list. Has everyone seen the list of the major points and topics that we've sent out? Any thoughts or questions or anything?
Bill, can you bring that up? And
I got it right here.
That's the run.
All right, here, right here.
Oh, there we
Okay.
go. The second thing is, we've done this combination of pre-recorded with live hosts over the last 2 or 3 webinars. And in this one, because we think people will have pressing questions, because most of the people who come to us seem to be people who are organizing, we thought that it would be good to have a live question and answer exchange. So that's really what we're hoping for, both in terms of the probing that you will all do as panelists, but also the kind of questions that will come from the audience. And we'll try to be as direct and as lively with that as we can. Peter, do you want to walk through any of this or highlight any of this for us?
Shay, you said something important. I just want to underscore a moment ago. One of the things we want to get across is that courage is a collective thing. It's an individual virtue, but it becomes power when people are together and hold each other. I'm sure you're going to bring that forward. I can't tell you how grateful I am that this is happening. I think this is by far the most important undertaking of the KBS thing at the most critical time. So gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. The only thing I would say is also free-flowing conversation. There's so much to say on this that everybody's going to jump in, I know, but you'll with Rabbi Alana's help, she'll help steer the ship. But you want to be as animated as you can. Sorry. But that's all. Things have changed since these little possible takeaways were written. So there may be a lot of different things that you all want to put in, that also I'm sure the moderator will want to put in.
You want me to scroll? Do anybody go? Do you want to go through them at all? Any are folks?
Well, I mean, these are all pretty obvious, right? I think that point about the underneath this is a profound animus toward Black people. That again, that may not be completely obvious to people. There's always this debate, particularly on the left. Is this simply a reinstantiation of what's happened all the time in American history? Yes. And is it also different? Yes. It's both and.
Here comes Rabbi Alana.
Rabbi Alana is on some.
Fantastic. What a blessing. Whoa.
Hey, Rabbi, how are you?
Hi, everyone. It's a little hectic where I am, but I'm happy to be listening in.
Oh, thank you so much
everybody.
for joining us.
Say hi.
Thank you.
Hi there.
Rabbi Alana's been on vacation, or is still on vacation, so thank you.
Yeah.
So there's a new.
Good to see you.
There's one of the
Good
younger.
to see you all. Yeah. Come on, Baba.
We have just talked about the political purpose, and the short, you'll be able to catch up on that on the video as we're recording this. But the short view is that we want to be able to acknowledge the fear that is being intentionally spread around the country, and to pose as a counter to that the need for collective action that is public and visible and clear, as well as the need to protect each other. So, any conversation from our panelists at this point?
I'm going to jump in one more time. I'm pointing my little finger at this. The fear, anxiety, psychic numbing. That's in a way the framing. And of course, there's going to be a little clip before this, a little very short thing about King and his own struggle with fear.
And Shay?
Yeah.
I think in context, what else is happening around April 4th because of King? But right now, there is a year-long exhibit of Bayard Rustin at the National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis. And Walter's there now. But also, this is also a major, and I couldn't use the term anniversary, but a major acknowledgement of the brutal murder of Emmett Till down in Mississippi. And they're having, and the Old Miss is already doing it and organized to go down. And we were on the bridge for the 60th anniversary of the crossing of the Edmund Pettus Bridge, Selma. But I just wonder how, because that speech, thinking about that, but also in addition to Beyond Vietnam, that was the Poor People's Campaign, sort of a launch part. And I'm just thinking generationally how there's a lot of conversation happening now. Schools are back in, or kids are here, or colleges, whatever. But so it's not just around this one particular, but like you said, what do we do with it now going forward? And then recognize where we are now, and any kind of intentional intergenerational multi-language thing would be incredible. So anyway, FYI.
Yeah. No, actually, Mandy, when we were talking about you as the panelist, just what you said now is one of the strengths we think you bring.
Oh, okay.
To this conversation, because helping people understand that others have faced fear and found ways to act, and that over time, people have been able to move together towards something better, and giving such concrete examples, and the fact that I also think the importance now of having memory of these because there's such an effort to eradicate
Mm,
a sense of collective memory.
hmm
Shay, that
Like it.
Mandy brings up a good point. On when we were meeting the other day, I thought you did a good job of explaining sort of there are no lanes here, but what you thought each of the panelists. And by the way, I should add that Rabbi Alana, while she's going to be hosting, will also be participating as
Ah,
well on some level. So that because she's been doing a lot of great work and involved with a lot of interesting stuff as well. So, but Shay, do you want to go? Can you maybe go through that a little bit for everybody here? What you were thinking in terms of various sort of points of view on the panel that you thought would be important for folks to draw out?
Well, I just said with Mandy,
Right.
what we're really hoping for is this sense of the long history, the long commitment, the anniversaries that are signs not just that they happened, but they are sources of strategy and tactics and inspiration. And with Suzanne, of course, her long work on the right wing and how organized they are and how thoughtful and careful they are in what they're doing. That this isn't just a bunch of yahoos, who are angry. This is
Right.
a clearly orchestrated, organized effort to restore white supremacy, colonial imperialism, however we frame that. And also, the counter to that is to, I think, if she will, share some of the work with Project South and People's Movements Assemblies, that we can demonstrate in real time that people are organizing for mutual aid, they're organizing for creating different forms of governance, and that these are emerging as the possibilities for a future that's very different than the fascist one.
Yeah.
And Joe, with you, we know you've been organizing like crazy, that you have all kinds of experience of where resistance is moving now. And we think people maybe at some level understand that, but I don't think generally folks have a grasp of how widespread and energizing this resistance is. And I also, with Rabbi Alana, we heard Peter Beinhardt speak, and his phrase that I want to share with you was he was talking about how young people in particular were organizing these encampments with a deep desire for authentic community. And I think if you can share that sort of thing, it would be really wonderful. And then with Rabbi Alana, she has been internationally in the forefront of helping people understand the importance of justice for Palestine. And she has just recently been there, been arrested, as I recall, with other rabbis for peace. So she's certainly can bring a voice of progressive political action and from a faith perspective. So that's what we're hoping on the panel. I don't know. Does Janet or Peter, or do you want to add anything? Because we've had this, this isn't what I think. It was a collective discussion.
I think that's it. I mean, again, when people feel, Masha Gessen makes this point every day, when people feel undefended, the authoritarians win. When people feel alone, the authoritarians win. When they have us running, and especially when they have us fighting each other as we're running, they win. So this, I mean, this is going to be life-giving.
Yeah.
This webinar is going to be life-giving to so many people. And I wish we had 10,000 people signed up. We don't, but it will have an afterlife. And absolutely, Shay, what you said, Suzanne, I am very eager I have not read your book, but I will, and I'm very eager to hear you connect then and now in a way that you uniquely can. And Mandy Carter, I've heard in the grapevine that you're a very courageous person. I can't imagine how that could be true.
I've seen it.
Seen it. With you all, not just me.
Totally thrills me that that this panel has come together. It totally
Yeah.
thrills me. I'll
Thank you,
yield the
Shay.
floor to Janet. I've talked too much.
No,
Thank you,
I was
Peter.
just going to invite Joe to say something both
Yeah.
about his work,
Mhm.
international nonviolence training, and but also about the listening we've been doing on Monday nights in creating a community where there's space for folks to say what's on their mind and heart and what it is we need at this moment. Joe, would you offer a word?
Um, so what we've been doing on Monday night is what I think, we're moving towards is trying to build a people's movement and doing that through some really deep conversations that we're trying to have on the front end of this piece. One of the things that's interesting, and then maybe you could just lift out things that you think might be interesting to talk on the podcast, but as a group is sort of coming together and developing, what we're seeing is sort of this emergence of deep emerging of deep trauma in relation to movement work in general, I think, right? And that like there's some a need for the space to be not with the people in the group, but there's fear that, as the group develops and evolves, that sort of what's been seen, what other people have experienced is sort of like a certain level of toxicity, a certain level of mistrust in these spaces, which speaks, I think, especially to some of the things that we're talking about here. But more importantly, we've been engaging in the work of figuring out how do we, in fact, create a space that is affirming and welcoming beyond sort of like the organizer class, right? And that we can bring people into the space and, wherever they're at, like we like to say, but truly wherever they're at, give them a space of hope, community, joy, love, and also allow them to engage in work that speaks to their values, right? And so we've been thinking about that very deeply, like unpacking questions about that. And I think we're right on the cusp of understanding, like two things. One, how do we engage and bring these folks in that and create space for them to be who they are, where they are right now, and engage in movement work in a real way. And then two, what is sort of the parameters of the group. A few people from Song are working on that right now, I hope. Like what does that, container in general look like? Another interesting thing that has really come up, it was actually really profound, and Serena actually made this observation in relation to like faith work, is that like what we were describing, she's like, what we were describing was very similar, almost parallel to what has been happening in the church, right? And that like people still believe, right? But they don't want to go to the places where you're supposed to go when you believe, because those places haven't served them in their faith walk, right? And so they found a different way to do it. And she's saying like this similar process is emerging in movement work, and that people want to do and change things and engage, but the spaces that were built for that, those institutions, aren't spaces where they feel like they can do that in any real way, right? So then what's the work for us as we sort of like move through and try to build this sort of like space in people's movement? I think, the first thing is a realization that in a lot of ways, and I think Suzanne can speak to this really eloquently, is that movement work in general has been sort of 501c3ified a bit, and that in a lot of cases it becomes more about the grant requirements than the people, and that can make it really tough for people feeling like they want to engage. I mean, it's not everybody, but it is also something, like to keep an eye towards, right? Like that those things happen. I think the next big question that we're trying to tackle is how then do we, like build this thing in a way, but also be responsive to the things that are happening now, right? So there's so many of these like interacting, competing priorities that we're having to deal with. And so, for example, I was just, I'm going to just send this email out, but, this week we're going to tackle some more of those questions, but also one of the other members of the group, Drew, had expressed it like he'd want to maybe give a proposal about like how we can act on things and start to move things forward now. And so like people sort of step up every once in a while and say, hey, this is maybe how we should move. And then the group, comes together and figures out, how we're going to move. And so that's where we're at. It's in its infancy. So it's not at all clear, but I also think that in times like this, we find ourselves in some of these like chaotic spaces that are just like inherently uncomfortable because we want to do things and we want really clear next steps on how things are going to happen. But I'm sure, as all of you know, like if you can think back to when you've been there, if you've sort of stayed in that space for a little bit, then you realize that on the other end of it is something, probably more clear, more beautiful, more to the point of what it is you're trying to do. And so that's where we find ourselves here at now. So I'm really excited to be back in a space where I'm not just talking about it, but I'm actually being about it and like holding space for people to do some organizing and things like that. Yeah. I guess on the international, I feel like I've talked a lot too much, but that's like a really fun project that I'm really enjoying. But if you want me to go into some of the international things that I can talk a bit about that as well. So, okay. So on the international front, I was engaged to help develop a climate justice fellowship. The idea was that the climate justice movement as a whole was just objectively ineffective over the past 10, 15 years. And I found that sentiment to be, like true, and it kind of bears out in sort of some of the things that we're seeing. But what was the difference? The thought was that a good amount of the issues within the climate justice movement is sort of a lack of capacity to do some strategic thinking. From the Albert Einstein Institution perspective, I gathered that it was probably a little bit deeper than that. And so over the last few years, especially the last 2 years in Africa and Southeast Asia, we've been engaging in building the capacity of certain climate justice movements in those spaces, from various countries around Africa, from various countries in Southeast Asia, where there was a new process developed to help activists engage with Gene Sharp's work and theories in a way that actually made sense to them and their movements and like what it is they wanted to do on a day-to-day basis. And so we sort of I took a lot of the things that I've learned from folks like Janet and, just like watching you all in the movement space and applied it to the work of Gene Sharp and how you can actually bring theories to life through actually meeting people where they're at. And so in that process, we've been able to see some pretty good success. This great group in Cote d'Ivoire has shut down a coal mine, and they're integrating constructive programs in various villages. I'm talking, like chickens and hydro agriculture, coupling it with climate caravans and shutting down the injustices that are happening like in their spaces. Another group, well, not a group, but one representative from a tribe in Kenya is staving off land evictions from the carbon market trading. And so what we've been able to see is that if you just don't, I guess, like force people to read all of Gene's work, but you sort of put it in a space where they can engage and play with the concepts and the theories in a way that is real to them, they can very effectively start to apply it and change their situation. And so we published just a little piece on, how this could possibly work for different other movements to start to engage in this theory work. You start with the people first, and then the theories sort of take hold because it's blossoming from their own lived and shared experience that we're having. And so that's sort of where we're at with that. So,
Thank you for that, Joe. And I really want to encourage you in the course of the webinar to bring out those kind of concrete examples for people. And that last phrase you said of, starting with the people and then moving to the theory seems to me something really valuable for folks. Yeah. Janet, did you have something did I see you about to say something?
No, I was just nodding my head saying, yay, Joe.
I think Suzanne was looking to talk. She had her hand.
Yeah, go ahead, Suzanne. Oh, I see your hands up there with the yellow lamp.
It's hard to see, Suzanne.
Maybe I'll turn that off. How's that? Is that better?
Much better.
All right. I have a couple of things I can talk about. The growth of the right, reaction to that over time, but I also can get awfully dark in talking about that. In fact, I've spent a long time questioning, should I have stayed dark and talked louder? But I think the thing that I'm really interested in is not just fear, but how do we overcome fear? How do we grow courage? And so that's some of what I would like to talk about. That the real role of community, what it means to be having fear now, when the state of community is probably as bad as it has ever been in history. That communities are basically destroyed by many, 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 many things over the last 50 years. And that we've had less organizing within the movement, the social justice movement. So and then along with the destruction of community, along came COVID. And then we don't have this face-to-face body. I can't say face-to-face because we are face-to-face right now, but this physical connection to one another, what it means to be in meetings. So we have, I think, a large, large problem. So it's a question of how do you build and how do you restore and build that? So I'll try to talk about that in a way that's not too vague. I can give very concrete examples of it, but I don't know about the rest of you, but I think it is community and plus organizing that will save us.
To that end, Suzanne, thank you for adding that. I asked in the chat if everybody could email me, and I'll put my email in there. Concrete links, for lack of a better term, but concrete places we'd like to encourage people to go to, or where organization is happening, where movement work's happening, where they can plug in locally, internationally, whichever. So please send us that, because we'd like to offer that out to people while we're talking, and sort of on a running way, sort of have people connect to your various organizations, and then places where they can really invest their time and energy. And I think keeping it concrete, like you said, is really important, to stay clear of jargon, because a lot of our people might be familiar with that, but a lot of folks are coming there just because they are afraid and they want to see. So kind of keeping it clear that that's going to be really concrete and helpful, I think would be great.
I think a lot of us could give examples of building courage. It's not just the the delicacy of how do you gradually overcome fear. It's collectively. How do we
Yeah.
how we overcome fear. But my other question is it just the four of us who are going to be on here? Is it just Mandy and me and
Joe and Rabbi Alana? Yeah.
Let's say just
It's
you are
just
you are you are you are a powerful
facilitating.
group.
Rabbi Alana is going to be the facilitator / participant.
Oh, okay. I was going to say
And,
she's not participating.
Yeah, that's the idea. We wanted to give people time to talk. And we have some targeted vignettes. I think maybe this is a good time to go to the run of show. But for example, we're going to end with Ashley doing a call to organizing. So let's see. Got our run of show, should be above that, I think. Yep, there we go.
And Rabbi Alana, I did send this to you via your email, just so you know.
And
Could you also put that in the chat?
This link?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hold on.
Great. Thanks. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So, Peter, do you want to walk us through this?
Sure. So most of this falls into a pattern that we've used successfully in the webinars before. So we have, welcome, grounding. I have not looked at Grace's piece, but I'm told by Bill that it's fantastic. The little prelude thing is something that Bill and I will record at lunchtime today, and we'll send it to you all. But it's very much based on it. It takes us, because this is king and the regular it's king and breaking silence. We need to do that. We need to have that framing. It also means that you panelists don't need to rehearse all that in real time, because it'll be set up for you. It's a setup piece, and then here we are. Rabbi Alana will say we're going to plunge into the conversation, but first we have this wonderful poem by Eneb, and then here we go with the heart of the program. You are the heart, the living, breathing heart of the program.
Peter, if I can just jump in for one second. I have all these pre-records. I'm going to put them on here with links. So if people like Alana want to look at them ahead of time to have some context of what other people are going to be seeing, they should have most of that, all that available. So sorry, go ahead, Peter.
And let's just say this is a working document. It's a work in progress. This is not engraved in stone at all. But the heart of the program, again, is what we've been talking about. And then this time we'd like to have you respond, since it is a live show. Respond a little bit to what's coming across the transom, and of course we have people sorting that out for you. And then we go to Eneb again. These poems are short, but really, really powerful. Rabbi Alana, we haven't talked to you much about this, but we want to evoke the idea that music and movement, that singing is related to taking courage, right? And we have some music there. I don't think this needs to be very long, but the music is powerful, and it's evocative itself. Bill Wiley Kellerman recorded this little crystalline jewel about in spiritual communities, in resistance circles, people acknowledge their fears and often realize that what they're afraid of is what they should do. That's the punchline in his little clip. It's gorgeous. When you see it, you'll know why we're going to put it in here. And so we should explain a little bit. Shay, you might want to step in here, and Janet, what we mean by kitchen table and front porch. Could somebody break that down a little bit, because it's not immediately obvious what we mean. These are places in the house. What do I do with them?
Janet, you want to do that, or?
Sure. So two different things. One is in rural areas, particularly in rural South, the front porch is the place where folks gather and tell stories and kind of check in and both include songs and generally a community where you are welcomed and listened into life, as Emily Towns would say. And the same is true with Kitchen Table. So Barbara Smith started the Kitchen Table Press, the notion that wisdom comes from community sitting around together, listening to each other in ways that pull us back into life and courage and hope.
Mm-hmm.
And so what does that mean? To create spaces like that where we're not talking at people, but we are sitting and listening. And in that listening, we gather both the courage and the strategy for movement building.
Is that all clear enough? I think it's important to have those elements here. And here we go. We have a third gorgeous poem, and then we're moving to the frontline work. And we're going to record this thing today also with Eric Stoner and the Waging Nonviolence thing. I'm looking forward to that. I don't know. Bill knows a little bit about what they're up to.
And
at that point,
it's going to be very good. He's got great stuff. Erica Chenoweth from Harvard just had a great article on Waging Nonviolence. Joe Worthy knows Eric well as well, so it's going to be good. Pardon me. So.
Okay. So now we're on the this is the third act. We're inviting people to connect in keeping with our own thing. The Ashley recording, I looked at it yesterday. I was stunned at how great it is. It'd be hard to figure out how to edit it because it's Ashley and she's, it's full of energy, full of heart, full of light. It's wonderful. We're going to honor our beloveds who are with us still, but have transitioned at the end, and then we're out with the final poem. This program will be, and I think it should be a little bit longer. In the past I've been kind of a crank about 75 minutes is about right. I'm not going to be that crank this time because I just don't see. We're trying to do a lot here. We will lose people if we go to 2 hours, but I think we can go to a good 90 minutes.
And this panel we're talking is at least 20 to 25, if right, or if longer.
No. We haven't timed it out yet, but I think when we do time it out, we're going to see 90 minutes easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Suzanne.
So it's a run of play without the those of us who are actually talking. Do we have? Is this just going to be loose, where there's no sense of when each of us comes, and also is it loose in the sense that we talk as long as we want to, or is there some sort of standard that we're holding here that maybe not talk over a couple of minutes, or is it? I would just like
we could do that for you.
Us.
We could do that for you if you wanted. We could sketch out a possible flow for the conversation.
To start it.
Rabbi Alana is I think a good navigator. She probably has the capability with a raised eyebrow or something like that to hint if it's running a bit long. But yeah, we could, based on this morning's conversation, we kind of know points that you want to make, but we don't want to make it a seminar. That's death. Seminars, would you give your presentation and would you give your presentation? No, not for this.
So I agree with that. I also know that, particularly among the elders, we are big time talkers. And need much more than a blink of the eye or a raised eyebrow. It's like, stop. We
will have contact.
We have lots of evidence of that.
I think it is perfectly fine for Rabbi Alana to acknowledge all of that, to say that what we're doing is we want a conversation among you. We want you to build together on these ideas of courage, and that she will be there as the navigator to make sure that no one dominates the conversation or gets lost in their own head. I think she can also say that one of you can have that, or all three of you can have that option with her when she's talking, so that it's clear to everybody that we know everyone has lots to say. But the important thing is we create a collective sense from this conversation. We would like to model what collective thinking looks like. We don't have we're not pretending we have answers, but we do have perspectives to share, things to give people.
And I could just add that on a practical level, Suzanne, what we often do is we have a text chain going separately that I can sort of say to everybody, great, we got 5 minutes. Rabbi Alana, can you wrap it up? Or maybe can somebody jump in here? We can have that going too. So there's a sidebar and you can look at if it's not too much. And so you can at least see like there's a conversation happening from the production end, so to speak, that we're saying, hey, we're doing great. This is wonderful. Or this is going so great, we're going to go an extra 5 minutes, something like that. So I can get that. And anyway, it's just Rabbi Alana, and I can do that. And I can have all you on there as well, if that makes sense.
Can I also send folks direct chats just to give a sense of like, hey, another minute?
Yeah,
of course you can.
So if you can all,
okay, great.
If you can all email me your phone numbers so I have them in we can just make sure we all have everybody's cell phone, that'd be great.
The text will be best for me. I find it almost impossible to read the chat because of my sight.
Yeah, same.
Okay, text. Okay, great.
Good.
Also,
The other thing I want to
just go shut up now.
We did agree collectively to also push the April 5th event. So there'll be a slide on that, and that's one major collective action that people can take, and they can find expressions of it in local communities. So they don't need to go to Washington, D.C. to march. There'll be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these kinds of activities in local areas. Okay, anything else anybody needs to?
I will post this on our YouTube channel and send everybody an unlisted link. It'll be unlisted, so just those with the link can see it. It won't be public. And I will also, as I said, you'll be able to look at basically this is the main live component. So everything else is mostly pre-recorded, although we never really talk about it being pre-recorded. Most people think it's happening live. Just a little FYI there. So you'll be able to see most everything that's going on. I know that list looks long, but a lot of that's just because I've broken out. Okay, Rabbi Alana has to talk here and introduce, boom. And then if you can, so you'll be able to take a look at that. And then that's really, that's really it, I think. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that really needs to be talked about. I'll send this out there if people want to look at what they're doing. And please send me, if you can, places we should plug in. You want to encourage people. Suzanne, we're going to have people talking about your book as well. We'll have that up there. And we put that in our weekly email this past week. So that went out to about 3,000 people. And our numbers are about 200 or so right now that are registered. We'd love it if you could send it out on any channels you have personal to your folks. I'll send a link as well after this, showing you folks. You can send out registration links to your friends and family, et cetera.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Anything else from anyone?
Just, I think we owe you all a simplified run sheet that's easier to handle, and it will include in the conversation section some of the we'll call them specialties that we identified in the conversation this morning. That would be easy to do, and I think it would make our lives saner.
Yes. Okay. Well,
I'm trying to do it. Yeah, well, I'll put it together. Yeah, Peter, I just put that together because I was asked.
I'm not dinging you, Bill. I love you.
That's fine.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to ask Rabbi Alana, you're on vacation. Would you give us a blessing out? Just a quick one.
I wish for all of you that if you have Sabbath in some way or another coming up, that you get just a taste of what I've been experiencing the last few days here at the Blue Ridge Mountains. But no, just want to thank all of you for your decades of service and your years of wisdom accumulation, hard won, and close with this teaching, because I'm really thinking about how honored I feel to be in this room, in this movement with all of you. That in my tradition, the ethics of our fathers, it says, who is honored? One who honors all of creation. So thank you.
Thank you. See everyone at 6:15, if not before.
Gratitude.
Thank you, Shay. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, folks.